Hello. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I normally give questionable writing advice through running metaphors, but today I'm not really going to be doing much of the talking. It will all be coming down to the person who is joining me. If you can't tell, I am joined by Nicole, also known on YouTube as the Blind Sisters. And on your videos, you give descriptions of tarot cards and you run the Poets Corner to bring awareness of poetry as a medium. So I'm really glad that you are able to join us tonight because I know virtually nothing about poetry. I think I took like a class in middle school about it, and that's really about my extent. But you also have Shadow's Abyss, a poetry collection with some grim writing in there, which is perfect for those long winter nights, which we are fast approaching. And that was written under your pen name, L.N. Frost. Nicole, is there anything else you'd like to add to let anyone out there know who you are?
Well, thanks for having me. As you said, my channel is The Writing Sisters, which is co-founded with also The Writing Sisters.
Mm-hmm.
Both channels are run by both myself and my sister, Lauren Adele. And we decided to do it this way because of the fact she's more of the tech person, and I'm more of the creative type of video ideas. So we figured this would be an easier way to share the channels.
Cool.
And we also have a Ko-fi page and a website called Enchanting Tales Publishing.
Perfect. Yeah, sorry, I made a mistake. But yeah, I really enjoy both your channels, so it's a lot of fun, and it's always great to see you all joining in on here in the chat, and it's great to get you on again. I feel like it's been, I don't know, a year or two since the last time, but we gotta do this more often. And yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. So author J.M. Chaley, Adriana, and Cool Gamer. Also, Lauren is here as well. She's in the background and she's in the chat. So let's get this underway. Going back to your poetry origins, how did you get started with writing poems?
So I started writing poetry in middle school. I was bullied a lot because our schools didn't really know how to handle having students with disabilities, so they really didn't step in when other students thought it'd be fun, made fun of me, like falling down steps or running the walls or my speech impediment.
I'm sorry.
And I had a hard time like saying on my mind, so I started writing poetry to get my thoughts and feelings out, and that way it wasn't bottled up.
I'm really sorry that you had to go through with all that. That's an awful experience. But how can someone with, say, a pen and paper, or more likely their laptop or phone or whatever, how can they start writing poems just to begin with?
Well, usually how I write is just write what comes to you. Like I wouldn't try to structural or formatted. I would just jot down what is in your head and then go back to it later to clean it up.
Okay.
And like I said, some people use like pen and paper, some use your laptop, some use your phone. It's what is at your disposal at the moment.
So you don't focus on anything like rhyming schemes or anything like that. You just try and jot your ideas down, right?
So my style of poetry is more known as free verse.
Yeah.
Or there are a few where there's a musical theme behind it, but I'm not really into the whole rhyming scheme when it comes to poetry.
That's fair. I think a lot of people might be more familiar with that through, say, our lessons on Shakespeare.
Yeah.
like I said, most of my experience with poetry comes from learning it in middle school and I guess later on in high school with through Shakespeare, and that is that's definitely a style, but it's not all that poetry is. So I want to stress that here.
Well, I mean, you have Shakespeare, and you also have the Iliad or the Odyssey. They're also counted as poetry as well.
Yep. And where do you start with your blank page and your poetry? So you're talking about just jotting down ideas. Well, are you, I don't know, sitting in nature? Are you just in a classroom board? Are you in a car, in the passenger seat of a car, just, waiting to get where you're going?
Well, I have trouble writing cars, but when I was in school, a lot of times I would be writing during class, so I was time bored. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times I'll be either just hanging out with Lauren or just you're listening to music or watching a movie, and just an idea will inspire me.
Cool. And that's how your poems will start. How do they end? So how do you know when you're done? After, do you write just like do you just write a page? Do you write a paragraph? Do you write until you fully conveyed your idea? How do you know when you're done and ready to go back and, edit it or write the next poem?
So for me to be a page or two, I try to make sure it's no longer than 3. I do have a poem that's 12 pages. I think that's the only one I've written so far. But for me, I know a poem's done when I'm reading out loud and it seems like the idea or the story being told in the poem is complete.
Okay. Sounds good. Oh, hey, Felicia, thanks for joining us. And let's see, we got a question right here. Do you enjoy looser grammatical poetry, such as less focus on punctuation or capitalization, or do you like your stuff to be more traditional?
I think it depends on what kind of poem we're writing. Like, I do still follow Steam, it's free verse. Like, for example, I'll have it here parted where each stanza is only 3 or 4. Or if I'm doing like a sentence format, it starts as capitalized, like that. But there's other poems where it's like more song-wise that's not as grammatically correct or structural.
Okay, gotcha. Do you use certain styles of poetry? This is a question that I didn't prep you for because I'm just thinking off the cuff, but like haikus or sonnets or anything like that, or do you just go free form and whatever comes to mind, that's what you write down?
So I usually do free verse, but when my vision was better, I do like write on paper. I would write. I don't remember the type of poem it's called, but it's like when you have a word, each letter has a different line of the poem. Mm-hmm. So I do a lot of them for my like birthday cards or for special occasions.
Oh, cool. And when I'm writing a scene, so not poetry, when I'm writing, my fiction or whatever, I'll get to a point and I'll frequently realize that, I need the character to have this item, and so I need to go back and incorporate that in, or I need this character wearing a certain set of clothes, and so I need to go back a few scenes and say, oh, they took their jacket because it was pouring down rain, so that way it makes sense in a later scene when they can dig in through their pockets and find whatever item they need. But what does that look like in poetry, where you start off writing and then you realize, should I go back and change it, or can I just let it flow and build in whatever metaphor, whatever context I need later on?
So the cool thing of poetry or anything you're writing is that you can always go back and add or subtract from what you're writing. Mm-hmm. There were some cases for Shadow List where I had a poem and I had the ending written, but it was really short, so I had to go back and fill in from the start to the end because I had a really strong line and a really strong end line, but it wasn't clear enough to get the poem across to readers.
I gotcha. That makes sense. I just like that answer. What methods do you use to improve your poetry skills? Is it amount to repetition where you write more and more poetry, and then over time you get your skills to improve in terms of quality and quantity that you can produce? Or are you trying to, I don't know, experience more of the world, where you just go from, say, a crowded city street to like a quiet forest and just try and get wrapped up in those vastly different moments and then try and convey them as best you can through your poetry?
I think I do both. Like, anyone that's writes, like every time your writing will improve just from you having experience and seeing what works for you, what doesn't as a writer. But also being able to travel and have new experiences allows you to get new inspirations for the poems. Like, for example, I have a few poems from going to London because that was my first time there, and I got to experience that what was new there.
Oh, I'm sure that must have been wonderful. That's one of the places where Adrian keeps trying to get me to go. Yeah. Ooh. There's an open mic night coming up soon. What is the 25th? Is that? Sorry, I'm. You squirreled me. Okay, so that's Saturday night. This Saturday, there will be an open mic night on Morgan Lee and JC Carpenter's channel. Do you know who specifically is hosting, whether it's on Morgan Lee's or JC Carpenter's channel? I mean, it's on the YouTube link is right there, so we can figure it out.
I think it's Morgan's.
Cool. And speaking about your inspirations, and no, I'm serious here, because you're from Baltimore, and there is a very famous poet who's from there, Edgar Allan Poe. And does his work or other famous Baltimoreans, do their works inspire you and say to influence your tones or the themes of your works? Because you have gone some pretty dark routes in some of the poetry I've read, and I mean it. Yeah, let's just go with that, because I could easily see somebody like the Telltale Heart, or having somebody bricked up behind a wall. I could see that being an influence, but I just want to hear, who inspires you?
I mean, you're not wrong. I definitely say Poe inspires me a lot, because I grew up reading his stories and poems. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I didn't do this intentionally, it just happened. But for Shadow Bash, you'll see that's Raven for The Raven, poem by Poe.
Oh.
And then the next book that's going to come out is called Fractured Heart. And it's going to be a play on the Telltale Heart with a heart made of glass that's shattered. So all my colors are going to have like the Poe theme, just reinterpreted.
Gotcha. And since we have Shadow's Abyss up here, is there anything you'd like to share about it, or tell what any potential person who hasn't read it what might be in store?
Sure. So I think the cover came out really good. It was done by
Megan Squire.
Thank you. And she worked with me really well. She made sure that it was a good contrast and that I could actually see what was on the cover. And for anyone that likes dark poetry, I'd say they would read. Most of the genres in it is about loss, find yourself, death. There's no different takes of like accepting yourself or being outside the norm. And like you said, for it being based around the Yule time, because Yule is the darkest time of the year.
I gotcha. Yeah, the longest night and everything.
Yep.
That's really cool.
And that in the olden day, definitely during the Celts, they would pass winter by telling stories until summer came again. Until springtime.
Well, it looks like I'm not the only person who thinks your poems remind them of Poe. Jam Chaley's here, and he thinks the same thing.
Well, thank you.
And there's also some T-Swift battles going on in our chats. So.
Inflate your ego.
I'm sorry. I have questions. Let's figure out here. Let's say that I'm starting off in poetry. What's some advice that you could give to me, or are there any specific resources that a poet might want to use as opposed to somebody who would just be, generically writing? Because I have like the Fire and Fiction is one of the books that I use as a resource for helping me write the manuscript. But I'm wondering where you would go to look to explicitly do poetry instead of just, hey, here's how you write.
Well, most of my poetry got more formatted and cleared up after taking creative writing classes with Brooke Bonani at CCBC, which is community college in our town.
Okay.
And also, I've been using this lately, which Lauren bought for me.
Let me take down your book for a second and get this bigger. You are on full screen, so
there you go. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Yeah, that looks wonderful. So 365 poems and prompts. That makes perfect sense. To draw a crude comparison, Natalie Locke is all about, she's another AuthorTuber. Everybody here already knows her, but she is all about flash fiction. And so she's got like daily prompts just like that. So I can easily see that kind of tool as being a wonderful, wonderful resource.
Yep. And like I said during my Korean class, we were doing prompts like one was where Marinette came from in the book was we were given 8 words and we had to write poems with that.
Mm-hmm.
Or we were given a picture and we had to describe it. Or a fun one is taking a word like love, writing down every word that's associated with it, and write a poem not using any words.
Now, once you're done with writing your poems, do you have any places you go to submit them, either for publication or for posting on blogs?
Well, besides self-publishing myself, I usually post some on our Trophy page.
Okay.
And then I also have been submitting to Maryland's Emerging Poets.
That's really cool. Sorry, I'm going to get you. Could you tell us more about that? So is it like a regular meetup, or is it just a supportive network of people you know online?
So it's actually a book that comes out once a year, and it has a bunch of poets from Baltimore showcasing what they write. And
Cool.
I ended up being published in it 2 years in a row.
Wow. And do they have like a magazine, or what's that look like?
Do you know what it is, or what?
Usually they publish it as like a physical book.
Yeah, I
Oh,
I did
cool.
not mean to grab it. I know it's somewhere in a bookcase somewhere.
That's fine. That's fine. I know the feeling. I frequently am discussing books, and no, it's somewhere behind me, but I have no idea, and I'm not going to stop casting to demonstrate it.
Yeah, I believe it's called Maryland's Best Emerging Poets by Z Publishing.
Cool. And because, again, I am all about professionalism, here is your latest publishing on Ko-fi. Through Enchanted Tales Publishing. You just posted something there, so I will put that in the chat now. I'm trying to... There we go. Oh! Yeah, that's your latest post, and let me see if this will actually work, if I can find some kind of poem in here.
Okay.
Oh, that's the article I posted today about at work, because,
Yeah.
I don't work when I work up front. But it's like how to respond to negative feedback or negative criticism.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry, it was the first thing I grabbed from a
No,
link.
you're fine.
I saw the Ko-fi link and I'm like, what was it? What's that from today?
Mm-hmm. Cool stuff.
I'm not actually working at work.
But yeah, so that's where your Ko-fi channel is, and you can experience that. You can support and get more poems, which is just wonderful.
Like I said, right now I'm working on Fractured Hearts, and I'm also working on Disenchanted, which is a collection of character poems for Disney and Petstar characters.
Really fun. Which is your favorite character to write about?
I feel like character poems, my favorite one to write was the one for Ursula. I had to write for a villain. I feel like villains are more fun than heroes when you write for them.
And then, what are you most passionate about? When you're writing poems, what are you most passionate in writing about? Is it plants, animals, dipping your toes in the sand, a specific scene, an emotion that you're trying to convey? What do you come across when you're writing poetry that you just have to write down?
I feel like a lot of times I want to go for like the loner or outcast point of view. So I'll focus more on the darker tones or try to write about things that most people don't think about. Apparently Jenna pointed out that a lot of my poems have to focus around the lack of vision or the darker things we can't see.
Sure. Especially if they're winter themed, I can understand that.
But I also like writing about like nature and mythology as well.
Cool. It's wonderful resource for getting inspired in our writing. And what went into creating Shadow's Abyss?
So
Did you?
Shadows of Abyss, as it was my second book come out. My first one that came out was Sherwood Asylum, but there was enough issues where I had to take it down and restart from scratch. So Shadows of Abyss and the new next one, Fractured Heart, going hand in hand. They're a collection of poems that I've been writing since middle school till now.
Cool. Did you know how many poems you wanted to include from the start in this collection, or did you just keep going until you decided, hey, this is enough?
Well, originally it was only 30, and then when Lauren tried to upload it on the KDP, we found out it was too short. So we had researched and found out that 50 is the minimum for a poetry book.
Okay.
Your next challenge is to do 100.
No!
You're welcome.
Go for it. Go for it.
Okay.
And challenge yourself to go from, you know, all dark and broody into the summer fae and all about the longest day.
Huh. You're about doing that. No, that's me trying to do happy poems.
Why are you looking at me?
Oh, you don't want to mess in that challenge.
Awesome. Do you have any recommendations for a poet who wants to get their works published? Where would they go? Where may they find resources? How do they know that they need 30 poems to begin with in order to publish on Amazon?
I'd say do research, but I feel like if you're a really newbie, I'd say look into doing open mics at local like coffee shops or bookstores, or seeing if there's any like writing groups for you to join where people can look at your poems and help you edit it and help you feel more confident in what you're writing.
That's really cool. I always forget that coffee shops are still a real thing because since 2020, it's few and far between. But there are still open mic nights out there, and those would be excellent resources to show off some poetry.
Well, I mean, if you can't find a physical shop, you can always do virtual mics too.
Right. Is there any final insight or words of wisdom you have for a wider audience?
I'd say don't overthink what you're writing. Just write it down and see what happens with it. And if you're not liking what you're writing, never delete or throw it away, because you can always reshape or use it for another idea.
So you're very big on being a discovery writer instead of somebody who plans and plots.
Oh yeah, but I went on poetry.
And apparently the reason I'm so bitter is because I don't drink coffee, which
I
doesn't make any sense. You would think that I would be more bitter if I drank bitter coffee, but
Hey!
I mean, I'm a tea drinker, so I don't get the whole buzz about coffee.
No.
Same. Well, I kind of burnt out on caffeine. There was a summer where I wasn't really sleeping and just kind of drinking a full 8 cups.
Oh man.
Like 8. Like I would go through multiple pitchers in a day and kind of burn myself on that. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. Nicole, I want to just thank you so much for coming in, joining us, and sharing your knowledge about poetry. And let's bring this up one more time. So your book is called Shadow's Abyss. It is using your pen name, Ellen Frost, if that makes it easier to find. Yep. It's a book of poetry. It's a bit darker. It's perfect for curling up on the couch and waiting out, wintertime if you don't want to go outside because it's too cold out. There's a lot of thoughts on coffee versus not coffee. So tea all the way, apparently.
It's on Audible too.
Oh, Lauren mentioned that it's also on Audible.
Mm-hmm. Aw, thank you. See, everybody thinks this is a fantastic interview, so this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I don't want to read.
Ow. I do this every week, so we don't need to hear about me. Where can people find you? So you mentioned your Ko-fi page. Do you want to talk about your YouTube and your Instagram or anything like that? Where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram. My handle is Luna Knits Frost, is what LN Frost stands for. On YouTube, I have the Blind Sisters, which is the channel we do tarot, and also starting to do videos about what it's like trying to be a blind creator. And also the Writing Sisters, which is where we are doing all our videos about writing, how to deal with writer's block, and all that stuff.
So I'm getting this here. So you said it's Luna Nyx Frost, correct? That's the
Yep.
one you want me to use?
Yes.
Okay. Come right here. Nyx Frost on Instagram. I already did your Ko-fi page. And sorry, I was trying to get that. Well, you said a third thing. What was and AuthorTube. Sorry.
Yeah. It's all good.
So let's stall and dance for a few seconds as I try and get everything set up for you, which probably should have done beforehand, but
Life happens.
exactly. Thank you. So I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. We have your YouTube channel, we have your Instagram, and yes, Shadows Abyss is so good, but it's not just me saying it. Jam Chaley's here, and he is a source on all things well written.
Aww.
Also, we can do a shout out for Jam Chaley too. If you haven't, we'll just shout out to everyone. If you haven't picked up your copy of the Unlife of Lisa Cooper, he has gone from the Bella instance. He's touched up the chapters a little bit and bundled them together into a physical copy of the book. So paperback, I think there might be hardcover, but that might just be a special one. Either way, paperback's there. It's on ebook. Get wherever. But we also have Shadows Abyss. And with that, I will see you all next week. Coming up, I hope you all, for those of you celebrating, especially us in the States, I hope you all enjoy celebrating Thanksgiving, spending time with your families, whatever you do. But if you come back next week, so a week from tonight, I'll be starting off a series on the 5 senses, and I'll be kicking it off with taste. So while you're at Thanksgiving, maybe think about how you might incorporate some of those meals, some of those experiences into our stories. And with that, see y'all next week. And until then, if you haven't before, try writing freestyle poetry. Have a good night.